And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. On today's program, we are going to be making stuffed peppers. We're going to be making Italian wedding soup, one of my favorites. And then we're going to make s'mores parfaits, and that is going to be delicious. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get started on our stuffed peppers. Well, let me back up just a little bit. On my stove, I have a pot with about 6 or 7 cups of just chicken stock that I have, the boxes of chicken stock, and I just have brought that up to a simmer so that it's ready for my soup when I'm getting there. So that's all I've done, prep work wise, is just get the chicken stock brought up to a simmer. The first thing we're going to do is seed our peppers. Let me show you a quick, easy way of how to do this. Let me just leave that down there. Now I have 3 peppers. And of course, we're going to cut them in half, so we're just going to cut down the bottom. And if you cut about halfway and pull it, it's much easier just to seed them. And then I just take my hand and get in there and pull out all the seeds and the membranes of the green peppers, because you don't want any of that in there. And what you want left is just a good, clean, halved pepper. And just place those in your baking dish. And do the same. I'm going to do 3 peppers today because they were huge. And so we're going to just do 3 peppers. But you can customize this recipe to feed as many people as you need. Maybe it's just you and one other person, and you could just do 2 peppers and just decrease the meat a little bit. It'd be perfectly fine. This is one of my favorite dishes. I love stuffed peppers. I love stuffed cabbage too. And I use the same filling that I'm doing with the peppers for my stuffed cabbage, which is one of those foods that that's probably one of my favorite things to eat, is stuffed cabbage leaves. Just love them. We'll do that on the program one day. And then just take the little membranes that are on there. It's okay if a few seeds remain. That's not a problem. Let's take that little membrane out. Now, our peppers are ready. If I can get them in there. This dish is a little small for this, but that's okay. We'll make do. Now, I have got about 1.5 pounds of just ground beef. Normally, when I make this recipe, I would mix about 1 pound of ground beef, ground chuck or ground round. I've got ground round today, with about 1/2 pound of ground pork. My store this morning did not have any ground pork, so it's okay. I just bought a little bit of extra ground beef, but if you can find some ground pork, mix about 1 pound of ground beef with 1/2 pound of the ground pork, and it's just yummy. So we've got about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I have 1/2 cup of just instant rice. This is one of those times that you want to use the instant kind of rice. If you use the regular, long cooking rice, your cooking time is too much with this recipe. So I use just about 1/2 cup of instant rice. You could use the brown if you wanted to. I have 1 egg that we're just going to mix in with that. The egg acts as a binder with the ground beef. We want to add about a tablespoon or so of salt and some freshly ground pepper. Pepper mill's slow today. Okay. And then I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of parsley, just regular flat-leafed parsley that I use in a lot of my recipes. I like the flat leaf better. If you can't find the flat leaf, by all means you can use the curly leaf. That's perfectly fine. Chop it once. Be careful of your fingers. And then take your knife. Let me tell you a little story while we're chopping. I was at home last night and I was cooking dinner, and I was making hamburger steaks. I used the ground round with hamburger steaks, and I was sauteing some peppers and onions to go over my steaks. And my children that are on here with me sometimes, well, they love to help me cook. And so we were home, and Austin came in the kitchen, and he said, "Mommy, can I help you cook?" And I said, "Well, sure, honey. What do you want to do?" And I was chopping some peppers at the time, some green peppers. And he said, "I want to do that." And so I give him this knife at home that's about the same size as this one. Praying the whole time, Lord, please don't let my child cut his fingers. And do you know that he just chopped that pepper as pretty as you please? He said, now, Mommy, this is what you do. You put your one side of your knife on the board, hold it with your hand, and then you take your hand and you chop it just like this. And I thought, oh, you've been watching Mama cook, haven't you? And so they do learn. Your children learn by example. And I've got about 1/4 of a cup there. But it tickled me that he would remember how to chop by putting one hand down, hold the knife, and chop just like we do on the program. Of course, he's been on many times with me, so he knows how we do it, but tickled me that he remembered. Out of the kitchen set here. So we just want to take your hands and you just want to mix all this together, completely incorporate the parsley with the egg and the rice. Don't over mix, but you want to make sure that you get it in there really good. This is a messy job, but that's okay. Most cooking is, isn't it? Then you want to take some of your mixture. We've got 6 pepper halves, so you kind of want to, make sure that you got enough to go in each one. So we want to take about 1/6 of our ground beef mixture and just kind of pack it in there in your stuffed pepper halves. This is one of those dishes that if you wanted to prep it up to this point the night before, put it in the refrigerator, and then the next morning, put it in your crock pot and let it simmer while you're gone for the day, and you would have supper ready when you got home. This recipe works really well in the crock pot. I've done it many times. And in the summertime, let me tell you a little trick that I do when when your garden has got a ton of green peppers in it and you don't know what to do with all of them. Do this recipe to this point right here and then freeze it. Put it in your freezer, and then in the wintertime when you want, some stuffed peppers for supper, just pull them out, let them thaw overnight, and either bake them in the oven, which is what I'm going to do today, or you can put them in, in your crock pot. To thaw them first and put them in your crock pot for the day, and it's yummy that way. And I do that quite a bit because that way, while I'm at work, my dinner's cooking, and then when I come home, it's done. I love my crock pot. We need to do some recipes using our crock pot. So we just want to just put our ground beef mixture in each of our peppers. Let me wipe my hands real quick a little bit. Then what we want to do is I'm going to put a little more pepper over them because I really do like pepper. If you don't like it, you don't have to put as much as I do. Then I've got 1 can of just regular tomato sauce, and I'm just going to pour it over, covering the meat mixture because your rice needs something moist to grab onto to cook. I've got 1 can of just plain old tomato sauce, and then I've got 1 can of stewed tomatoes. And I'm just going to kind of pour these over, making sure to cover my meat mixture really good. Let's put these over here. Then we're going to take a sheet of foil, just regular aluminum foil, cover our peppers. Let me put that up here. Cover our peppers, and then we're going to put them in a 375-degree oven for about an hour. Take the foil off and let them go for about another 15 minutes just to kind of brown up the top. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to start on our Italian wedding soup. I'll be right back with you in just a minute. Hi, and welcome back. Now we're going to get started on our Italian wedding soup. Now I have in my pot, I've got about 7 cups or so, 6 or 7 cups of just store-bought chicken broth that I buy the boxes when I need a lot of it. And I've got just about 2.5 boxes in this pot, and I've just brought it up to a simmer. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more now that I'm ready to use it. And I have about 1/2 pound of ground round. And again, this recipe, if you can find some ground pork, add just a little bit of ground pork to it, maybe 1/2 pound of ground round, and then 1/4 pound of the ground pork if you can find it, but my store didn't have any today. We're going to add the zest of 1 lemon to our meatball mixture, and I know that sounds strange, but it just really makes it yummy. This is one of those soups that is very hearty, but very light at the same time. It's got a good, light broth and just some little simmered meatballs. If you've never had Italian wedding soup, it's a soup that has traditionally has got just spinach and carrots, some kind of pasta, and just little tiny little meatballs. And that's what we're going to use today. I'm going to add about, half a cup or so of just some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Not half a cup, about 1/4 of a cup of cheese. And then we'll, of course, put more on our soup when we serve it. Just a little bit of cheese in there. Remember to always tap the back of your grater because that's where this stuff stays if you don't. Then we're going to do the same with an onion because I want the flavor of onion, but I don't want big chunks of onion. So what I'm going to do is use my grater, and I'm just going to grate the onion over my meatball mixture. Now I probably am only going to need about half of an onion here because this was kind of a big onion. Let me move this up here so you can see what I'm doing. You see how I'm just holding that over the bowl and I'm just grating it down in there? And you see how we're just getting the juice and a little bit of the flesh just grated up really fine. That's what you want to do. If you don't have one of these little microplanes, you can use a box grater. Most everybody has a box grater. Use the bigger holes on the box grater and just grate your onion down in there. I think a little more. Yeah, I definitely don't need this whole onion. Just about, you want about 2 tablespoons or so of grated onion. And the juice, that's why I'm grating it over the bowl, because onions are full of water. And so by doing it, I'm getting a lot of the, the juices and stuff too in the pot, which is what I want. And I think that'll be plenty. And we will just, now we want to add about a tablespoon, about a teaspoon of dried parsley. Or not parsley, basil. I'm getting tongue-tied today. And about a half of a teaspoon of just dried garlic. Now, as you know, I normally don't use the dried garlic, but I find in the meatballs, if you use fresh garlic, it's got too much of a bite to it. So the garlic powder is good in this recipe. And I've got about 2 tablespoons or so of breadcrumbs here. I'm only going to add about half those till I mix and see where I am. And some salt, about a teaspoon or so of salt. And lots of pepper. Now my pot has come up to a good simmer, as you can see. Let me turn it up just a bit more. You want your broth at a simmer, not a rolling boil, but at a low simmer. And we're just going to make our meatballs, and we're going to drop them into the pot. So let's get our meatball mixture. Again, don't overwork your meat. You don't want to make it tough. You just want to get your ingredients incorporated. You're going to be surprised at that little bit of lemon zest that we put in there, at what flavor that is going to add, and that is perfectly fine right there. Don't want to overwork it. Now, I want to take you want to make little meatballs. Just take about that much, about probably a teaspoon or so. Roll it in your hand. Let's just move over here to the stove. And then when you get them done, about a teaspoon or so, you want little tiny meatballs, drop them into the simmering water. They'll sink, that's okay. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add a few more of my breadcrumbs. My mixture seems to be a little bit looser than what I want. So add in just a little bit more. If it seems a little loose, add some more breadcrumbs. Your breadcrumbs is your breadcrumbs bind it. Because I'm not using egg. If you wanted to add an egg, you could. I do sometimes. Sometimes I'll put an egg in my meatball mixture. Now we're going to cook these meatballs for about 10 minutes. But in the meantime, we're going to add some other things. Now this is a soup that traditionally has got meatballs and a little bit of spinach, which we've got some frozen here today, some carrot, and some kind of pasta shape, and we're going to use orzo today. And then it's just simmered in a good chicken broth and eaten. But if you wanted to add some maybe you wanted to add a little bit of chopped up celery, you could. You could, if you don't like spinach, you could substitute like kale or any other kind of green. Swiss chard would be delicious in this. You really need to try to venture out, and that's something that I'm trying on this program, is to get some ingredients that you might not normally use. So we'll be doing this winter, we're going to be doing some good hearty braised dishes and some things using some greens like collard greens and Swiss chard and kale and those kinds of things. I love all the greens. I've never met any green out there that I don't like. Love them. They're so good, and they're so good for you. Just form your little meatballs and drop them in. You don't want to stir. Just kind of let them hang out for just a few minutes. Last one. And you see when they kind of get done, you'll see one here. When they kind of start cooking and they get to that point, they'll rise up to the top. You can see one right there. It just kind of floats up to the top. And that's what you want it to do. So that's our meatballs. Now to our soup, I have 1 box of frozen spinach that I've just thawed out. And I've just kind of put it over a bowl just to kind of let some of the juices drop out. And so we want to add 1 box of just frozen chopped spinach. If you have fresh spinach, by all means add it. And I don't think I need all that box. Man, we'll eat it. It's good for you. We'll put the whole box in there. Then we want to add some carrots, and I'm just using the pre-shredded up carrots that you can get anywhere in any of your produce departments. Want to add about 1/2 cup or so of the carrots. And a little bit of salt and some pepper. A lot of pepper. And add just your orzo. Now, orzo we've used on the program before. Orzo is just a little tiny rice-shaped pasta. It is pasta, but it just is shaped like little grains of rice. So I've got about a little over 1/2 cup, but I probably am not going to use all that because orzo, believe it or not, pops up really, really a lot. Really plumps up really firm. So I'm not going to use quite 1/2 cup. I'm going to use between a 1/4 and a 1/2 cup of the orzo. Take a spoon and gently, because you don't want your meatballs to fall apart yet. They're not, see how they just, you want to be very careful with them. Gently stir your soup. Cover it, let it simmer for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, until your meatballs are completely cooked through. Your vegetables and your pasta will cook quickly. And that's it. That's Italian wedding soup. We'll finish it. We'll garnish it with some parsley and cheese when we're ready to serve. I'm going to take a quick break, wash up. When I come back, we're going to make s'mores parfaits. I'll be right back with you in just a minute. Hi, and welcome back. Now our soup is simmering away. Our stuffed peppers are smelling wonderful in the oven, and so we're going to make our dessert. Now today we're going to make a take on a classic dessert. We're going to make s'mores parfaits. And if you've ever had s'mores, it's graham crackers with marshmallows and chocolate melted all in between, and it's delicious. But we're going to make a parfait out of it. I have 1 package of just chocolate, instant chocolate pudding that you can buy anywhere. And I've got 1 box of that, and I have 2 cups of cold milk. I'm going to add that slowly to my pudding mixture. Sometimes I use the full 2 cups, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use, like 1 3/4 cups. It depends on the humidity, quite frankly, in my house. It just, some days it needs more than other days. And this chocolate pudding, I found in my store devil's food chocolate, which is what I bought today. I thought, well, we'll try that devil's food because I've never made the devil's food. I always just get the plain chocolate, but I thought, how delicious is that going to be? All right, let's see how we are. Oh, I think we can probably go ahead and add the rest of the milk. And just stir that up with your beater or a spoon if you don't have a little instant mixer. Use a regular spoon. Now, they fuss at me around here when I take my beaters and I don't let them lick them. So I'm just going to put them in the spoon so everybody can lick them. Oops. Get that out of my way here. Now, stir up your pudding. Now, we want to take about half of this pudding and we're going to mix it with, I've just bought some, you know, the frozen whipped topping that you can get in any freezer department of any grocery store out there. And I've got about half of a container right here in this bowl. And I'm going to take half this pudding and put with half this whipped topping. So we're just going to mix that together here with a spoon. Look at that. Delicious. Could eat that right there. Just give me some graham crackers and that. I'm a happy camper. Kind of let that set for just a second. You know, the pudding takes just a minute to kind of set up. Let's check our soup while we're waiting on that. And see, my meatballs have floated, so that means they're done. And our orzo is done, and our spinach, of course, is already cooked. It's just frozen and thawed. So the soup is basically finished, and we'll decorate it up, you know, garnish it up and flavor it up with some Parmesan cheese when we get ready to eat it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that just completely down to low. Now, let's build our parfaits. I have got 2 little glasses. This recipe makes 4, but I'm just going to do 2 for you today. We're going to take some of the chocolate, the darker chocolate pudding, and we're going to put it in the bottom of our dish. Just a little bit of the chocolate. Okay, you with me so far? The rest is for snacking. Nah, we'll make up some more. Then I've got a couple of graham crackers in a Ziploc baggie, and I'm just going to crush them up. This is a great, great dessert to make with your children, and let them do this. Just kind of take your hand and crunch it up. You want little, you know, crunchies of just the graham crackers. And then we want to take some of the graham cracker crumbs and sprinkle over top of the pudding. Just a little bit. Your children will love this, I guarantee it. Take some of the graham crackers. Oh, not graham, yeah, graham crackers. And then take your other pudding mix that you made and spoon it over top of that. I'm ready to eat. If you could hear the sounds in this studio, you would laugh, because the camera operators are going, mm-hmm. They like this too. Then, of course, I mean, what is s'mores without marshmallows? Take some of the little tiny marshmallows, the little ones, the little guys, put on top of that, just however many you like. If it were Austin, he'd be eating the whole bag. That kid loves marshmallows. Then take, because I like nuts, I'm just going to add just a couple of little peanuts. I know that's not traditional s'mores, but I like them. So I'm going to add just, chocolate and nuts to me just is the perfect combination. Oops, lost a marshmallow. And to top it all off, take some good quality chocolate. Just take a little bit of chocolate, use a microplane, and top it with your delicious chocolate shavings. If you want to make chocolate curls, you can make chocolate curls, but just a little bit of chocolate over top of that wonderful s'mores parfait. And there you go. Let's just stop right here and eat. But there you go. There's the perfect little quick dessert that you can make with your children, and I guarantee you they will love it. Now, we've got our stuffed peppers over here that we've already plated up. We took them out of the oven, and we've put them in our plate. We've got 2 per serving, and then I just grated over top of that just a little bit of Parmesan cheese and garnished it with a little bit of parsley. And so let's get our soup. Our soup is done. Let's ladle us out a bowl of our wonderful little, look at that, how pretty that looks. Our delicious Italian wedding soup. Get you a couple of the meatballs per serving on top. And there, Then, here's your little spoon to eat it with. Take some of your fresh Parmesan cheese and just grate over top of your soup. And there is the perfect meal. Some Italian wedding soup, some stuffed peppers, and some s'mores parfaits. I hope you try these recipes and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.